I have a lot of things I want to get off my chest.
Well, enough is enough, and it's time for a change.
Finally, The Rock has come back. I hate this idea that you're the best.
And if you're not down with that, we got too much for ya!
I'm the best in the world.
I fight at WrestleMania for the very, very small percentage of people that walk this planet and say I am proud to be, I'm sorry, a professional wrestler.
Oops, I'm breaking the fourth wall.
It's Podcast of the Immortals with your hosts, Matt Bush and Jimmy Bellamy.
All right, welcome to episode 17 of Podcast of the Immortals. I'm Matt Bush.
How you doing, Matt? I'm Jimmy Bellamy.
Yeah, I'm good. Good episode of Raw last night, by the way. I really liked it. My girlfriend did not. She was texting me that it was lame. I disagreed. So we're going to talk about Raw today. We also have an awesome top 10 for you. It's the top 10 tag teams of all time, and this one was tough because you were kind of listing your all the tag teams that you actually knew rather than maybe you thought would make the list. So we ended up with 50 teams to choose from.
Quite a few, and I know when we make some of these lists, it's hard to look at eras. Mm-hmm. And of course, I think you and I have a soft spot for the Attitude Era, when the tag division was really strong. I mean, they had some guys like this group was not considered certainly by either of us, but like Mideon and Viscera, that was one of many pairs of individuals that were together for a while as a tag team.
It was absolutely loaded back then. I mean, you have the big three, the Dudleys, the Hardys, I'm missing one, Edge and Christian. Mm-hmm. But you also had the Acolytes. You had
Viscera, Shamrock, and Big Boss Man.
Yeah, you had the Team Angle. You had a lot of guys, and it was just a much better division than they have now. Even though it has gotten better lately with Team Hell No and Shield coming around, and Usos and Rhodes Scholars and Primetime Players.
And the Colognes even.
Yeah,
they have the personnel, but they seem to take a back seat to the rest of the action that goes on.
But compared to a year ago when we were getting Primo and Epico with title runs, and then they'd lose it to whoever, it just didn't seem to matter. At least it matters now.
Because I think Cody Rhodes was a tag champ with somebody prior to Sandow debuting. He had the tag titles with someone, and I don't think it was DiBiase.
I don't recall.
And I can't think. I'll have to look it up on WWE's site.
Yep. But we'll get into Raw now, and Stephanie McMahon made an appearance, kicking off Raw. Comes down and says Triple H will not be able to compete tonight. After it was seconds earlier was announced that he was going to face Curtis Axel, and Mr. McMahon interrupts her promo while she's saying this, and basically comes down and agrees with her. I don't know why he had to interrupt her thing just to come down and reiterate what she was saying, but he comes down anyways. And then it was really weird. The Shield interrupted Mr. McMahon's promo, and then for no reason whatsoever, they didn't say anything. They just went right into a match after a commercial break.
I'm guessing they do that for the app. You could tell this week they experimented with starting things on the app instead of cutting to a commercial and then continuing on the app. Things were starting on the app. Unless my DVR was screwed up, they did that with the Cena Curtis Axel match too. They had the intros, they went to commercial, and they came back and they were in mid-match. And I'm guessing it's a way for people to get this app. They probably thought, okay, our goal for the week is to do this and push it. It felt, you said it was a good Raw. There were some terrific matches, but other than that, it felt disjointed. The whole Stephanie thing, I don't think a lot of people are interested, although the crowd seemed to be very into Triple H. I don't think people are really interested in in this will Triple H fight or not thing. I mean, he's a part-time guy anyway, and I don't know if his air quotes health concerns are really that big of a story.
It makes me wonder if this is leading to something bigger. Like we said, where a retirement match, either at SummerSlam or WrestleMania, or what it's leading to, because they want to just do this. They brought out the heavy guns with, Vince and Stephanie. It seems like a big angle to them, so maybe it's building to something bigger than what we've seen so far.
I didn't understand, though, when Stephanie almost tried blatant heel tactics by saying she wishes the crowd wouldn't be so selfish. Mm-hmm. And Vince came out just to tell them not to boo Stephanie.
Yeah.
So it was like trying to get cheap heat. Maybe that was their goal, to just get people cheering for Triple H. I don't know.
Maybe.
But yeah, you're right. This is a small part of something to come.
Well, at least we think so. I mean, because they've had summer angles, even the CM Punk and Kevin Nash angle that was really weird, and it started like, oh wow, this could be really big, when Nash came in and gave CM Punk the power bomb in the middle of the ring, and everyone was like, whoa, what the hell? And then it just devolved into something.
And they never had
angle.
a match.
No,
they never had a match.
It was really weird. It all fell apart, but maybe they're actually laying the ground plans for something much bigger. We can hope.
Perhaps.
Well, the Shield, after the commercial break, they're in the ring, and they're going to be fighting Randy Orton and Team Hell No. Holy shit, this was again, and I told you this last week, and probably the week before. I can watch Team Hell No and the Shield go at it every single night. If they had TV on every night, and they had that match, I would watch every one of it and just enjoy the crap out of it. And this was no different.
They get a ton of time every time they're in the ring, which is great, and I guess it makes sense for a 6-man tag. But usually the 6-man tag is just kind of both sides are thrown together. Since they have this ready-made 3-man team, they get a significant amount of time to tell that story. Unlike a 3-man band match where there's your ready-made 3-man team, but they're more like a joke group anyway.
Yeah.
So their matches don't need to be fast or don't need to be long. It has been so fun to watch each guy wrestle and get better and better. And they're tremendous anyway, but to get better and better. And then to see their dynamic with a big guy like Kane, and then to see their dynamic with Daniel Bryan, who we'll be talking a lot about tonight.
Yeah.
Hope you guys are into Daniel Bryan and what he's doing, because I don't want to say that lately it's been his breakout time, because he's been a presence for a couple of years now. But he's
stepped his game up.
He's getting to that next level as far as WWE allowing him to, I guess, blossom as a performer. And I mean, really, he's so well-rounded. And I think back to 3 years ago, seeing him on NXT. And I still don't know if, when he was fired, if it was a gimmick or if it was a work or a shoot, if he was actually fired for that choking thing or not.
From what I know is that it was legit.
And that's what I still think. So to come back and although even when he was fired, it sounded like it was pretty well known that, okay, he will come back after this cooling off period.
Yeah, it's kind of a slap on the wrist.
Mm-hmm. But I'm glad he's doing what he's doing. He's fun to watch. And last night, I mean, if you want to look at anything about Daniel Bryan, or if you want to take a look at his career, just look at last night's. He was a part of 2 pretty damn good matches.
Yeah, absolutely. And it all bled in on SmackDown on Friday. He had maybe the last 5 minutes, and you haven't seen this yet, but I was telling you about it.
Sitting in the on-deck circle right now on DVR.
All 3 of the Shield basically versus Daniel Bryan, and Daniel Bryan fought them all off, just flying around. Like, you thought he was flying around on Monday. You should have seen him on Friday, because he was just going balls to the walls, just taking everyone out from the Shield single-handedly. He looked like John Cena, to be honest. If Cena could wrestle a little better. But and he was doing the yes, and the whole crowd was insane on a SmackDown. And Randy Orton...
Sure they weren't just piping in that sound?
No, it was legit. Well, they might have been piping it, but it sounded legit. And there's Randy Orton and Kane just looking at Daniel Bryan like, holy shit, like, what the hell did you just do? And he's just like, yeah, you know. And then Monday, I thought it was great, you know, this whole storyline with him feeling like he's a weak link, and he's got little man syndrome, basically, and for him to lose the way it happened, and Orton got shoved into him, and he got hit with, I still don't know if they've named Ambrose's finisher yet.
I think it's just called the Dean Driver.
The Dean Driver?
No, I'm just kidding. I haven't heard
the double D?
I don't think they've given it a name.
All right, well, he gets hit with and gets pinned, and he freaks out because, you know, he doesn't want to be the guy who gets pinned every time. He wants to be the guy who's pinning people. He wants to be the strong link. He wants to be as good as Orton and as good as Kane and, you know, taking legit. And they're like, dude, we believe you. You know, we know you're good. It just happened that way. And he's like, I'm going to prove it to you. I'm going to have another match tonight. And I got really excited. And he's taking on Ryback. And if you had seen their Ryback Daniel Bryan SmackDown match from maybe a month ago, that was a really, really good match as well. So I was pumped for that.
Both guys, too, were on the original season of NXT.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, Ryback is completely different from the Skip Sheffield character he was on NXT. But it was good. Yeah. It was good to see the match that they had on Monday, because in their confrontation backstage, it could have gone either way, where I thought, oh, God, they could have Ryback squash him, and they could play up the fact that he had already had a match, that Bryan was already tired. But they didn't. And Bryan looked great standing up to Ryback backstage saying, I'm not afraid.
Mm-hmm.
I'll beat you. And it was a terrific match.
Oh, yeah. And we'll get to that very shortly. After the match, Triple H arrived and went into Vince's and Stephanie's office, apparently, even though it looked like one of the backstage, like, fake setups with the curtain on the wall, and he basically says that he's going to wrestle tonight because, you know, he doesn't listen to them. He's Triple H, goddammit. So, yeah, that happened.
Like you said, perhaps this will lead into something much bigger. Probably will. If we do a little bit of speculation right here, maybe a prediction bound to go wrong, who's his SummerSlam opponent? Is it Axel?
Maybe. I don't know. It seems like a big spot for Axel, but they've been pushing young guys lately, so possibly. Yeah, I could see that. Although it would be a typical Triple H move to bury him, you know, in his first big match. Unless
maybe a returning Punk fought him. I know we've been talking about Punk Lesnar, but
I don't see that angle happening. I mean, it could possibly, but because he did lose to him 2 years ago at SummerSlam, I believe. Mm-hmm. It was that. No, he beat Cena 2 years ago at SummerSlam.
It was no. It was 2011.
Yeah,
he lost the title. Because that was when Nash came in. No,
I thought that was when they unified the belts, because they both had the belt.
Was that at SummerSlam?
Yeah.
So was that 2010? Was that Nash thing 2010?
No, that was...
No, that was 11, because that was post-pipe bomb.
I'm losing track of things here. No, yeah, 2011 was the SummerSlam where they both had the belts. Because he won at Money in the Bank.
Yeah, and that was that's the same thing. That was then Del Rio cashed in.
Yeah,
that's right. So that was
and held it for a while, and then he won it off Del Rio.
And then he fought Triple H at Survivor. Was it Survivor Series? He fought Triple H.
It was after the pipe bomb, but I think before he won the title. I can't remember now. Maybe not. No, it was after he lost the title to Del Rio, I think.
Yeah.
I'm losing track of time.
Did he fight Triple H at a generic pay-per-view, or was it Survivor Series?
I can't even remember. Yeah. It must have been a...
People right now are screaming at their computers.
We're retarded. Yeah.
You idiots! Who gave you a show? Well, we gave ourselves a show, so F off.
Yeah. I don't hear your podcast on iTunes.
Yeah, you guys could suck it.
Yeah, maybe we can listen to your opinions. Oh, wait. That's right.
Yeah, and you know what? We're not Googling right now.
Yeah, you got better things to do with your life.
We just worry about trying to find that information in our old brains.
Yeah. So suck it.
I did have a good point before we came up with all this, too. There was something about I don't know if it was true. Oh, predictions bound to go wrong.
Yeah.
Blah blah blah. Yeah, I'm thinking maybe a great way to elevate Orton as a heel again would be for him to say, "Look, I'm the legend killer. I'm gonna put you down," or something like that.
Punt to the head, knock him out for a long
Get
time.
him out of there. They could do that where it could be hyping Axel for a SummerSlam match, or they could just bring somebody out of nowhere, just all of a sudden, boom.
By the way, TNA announced a big signing today. It was a former MMA fighter, Rampage Jackson, signed with TNA.
Okay.
So that was pretty big news.
Did it sound like he would be wrestling full time, or is it going to be a part-time deal?
I don't know. I just heard the news like right before I got here.
Okay.
So after Triple H made his intentions known, the Usos and Primetime Players had a match, and Usos came out and won with their new face paint. They actually look pretty good. Kind of a throwaway match, but
The Usos, I'm sorry, a couple things. One, as somebody who likes good grammar and punctuation, it bothers me on their Titantron video. It says the Usos, and it's USO''S.
really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It bothers me a lot. And then
Well, maybe they just own the name or something. I don't
then
know.
the second point is that the Usos, to me, are a good bridge between the elite tag team talent and the kind of their tag team talent, like Primo and Epico, the Primetime Players. If they wanted to push the tag division and make the titles mean something and have half a dozen teams compete, I think Jimmy and Jey Uso could be elevated into a great tag team status if WWE wanted to push it.
It's really tough right now because they're going to push the hell out of the Shield. Because one of those teams would have to beat the Shield basically to become relevant, and I don't see that happening anytime soon. Anyways,
Yeah.
it could in the future, but it probably will in the future, but not for foreseeable future. Our next match was Alberto Del Rio versus Big E Langston. And there's some news here. Dolph Ziggler returned to the house show and he passed his concussion test. So we'll probably see him very soon. He was not on the broadcast last night, however. Alberto Del Rio won after a reverse suplex into an armbar and then a very unique pin to beat Big E Langston. And Big E Langston actually defeated ADR on Friday at SmackDown too. So this has been a good feud. Although I do have a question: where the hell is Jack Swagger? What is happening there?
It's weird that he loses that number one contender match and just goes away.
Yeah, not even on TV.
They've been doing that now with. I mean, you look at Cesaro hasn't been on TV.
Oh yeah.
And now Kingston, was Kingston really injured? They said he underwent surgery.
Storyline, but they put him on Friday. He was put through 3 different tables, and it looked pretty legit. But I highly doubt that he's actually injured.
With Swagger, it might just be, hey, it's a crowded house. You've had your time. Maybe he didn't impress the people he was supposed to impress. Now he takes a back seat. I think also Langston Ziggler's injury really threw a wrench in the plans of that feud. I was going to say those individuals' feuds. So maybe they're just leaving Swagger off until they're able to bring back that 3-way feud. Other than that, I can see him just falling out of favor, and they said, look, you had your chances, go to the back of the line.
I wonder if he's finally paying for that substance abuse policy right before Mania that went unpunished.
It's possible. They're done with Mania. They're done with the follow-up feuds. They're now into their summer cycle. And he didn't impress me very much, other than I was bragging about him or talking him up the day he ended up getting that arrest.
Yeah.
Saying that I like his character, I like Coulter with him, but I'm bored with it now. And I'm more interested in seeing what happens between Langston and Ziggler. Mm-hmm. If anything, maybe they just go back to chummy as usual, but for Del Rio and Langston to have 5 matches recently and have 2 of those wins go to Langston, he has a good case to say, I kept things going while you were away, Del Rio got lucky on that last one. Which, by the way, that pin almost had to be blurred. It was
pretty graphic.
It was
Biggie Langston needs a little extra clothing.
Yeah, he needs to have like the short bottoms or something, like shorts bottoms.
Yeah, there's too much man there to not cover it up.
He's a big dude.
Yeah, and to me, it looks like his feet are too small for his body. It's almost like cartoonish in his proportions. But our next match was Sheamus and Cody Rhodes, or Sheamus versus Cody Rhodes, I should say. Sheamus won, of course, after a short, but it was pretty solid. It was just kind of another throwaway match. Sandow was on the mic, and was gold as always. And Sheamus, of course, had to knock out Sandow following the match because it looks like they're going to have a feud, or are feuding, I should say.
I've never liked that Sheamus, as a babyface, resorts to heel moves. Slapping Sandow like that was a total heel tactic.
Yeah.
Of course, he offered the handshake, which Sandow refused several times. Still, maybe it's because I like Sheamus as a bad guy better anyway, but just he
needs something.
He's not believable as a babyface when he does stuff like that.
It's like a cook who's cooking something up and something just missing there, and they can't find what that perfect ingredient would be to make the dish. That's what Sheamus is right now. He's just short of like oregano or something. He just needs a little dash of something.
I think he's missing a dance partner is what it is. They have no spot for him.
I think that's his problem. He probably can't dance because he's too white.
There you go, being racist.
I know. All right. This is interesting. 6 million downloads of the WWE app.
And counting.
Yeah. I think it was probably... they're probably a little skewed because every week Michael Cole's downloading a new one to show the crowd.
So that's a good 20-something right there.
At least. Yeah. All right. So Triple H is back, and he says that he's going to leave so that he doesn't have to, this is a quote, beat his kid's grandfather's ass on television. But he says next Monday he will be back in the ring to take on Curtis Axel when Raw comes on the air next week.
And then later on, Vince said that
it won't happen.
I'm not interested in this unless it elevates another wrestler, and that would go against the grain of Triple H's history.
Yeah.
Although I'll take a consolation prize, and that would be Triple H turning heel. We need a heel authority figure. And you told me last week that Chris Jericho is a great heel. And I think we talked off the air about that. And I agree with you. Chris Jericho, better as a heel. And he has said he loves being a heel more than a face. Triple H as a bad guy,
Mwah.
and having
that's that oregano,
yeah, and WWE is usually at its best when the authority figure is a heel.
Yeah,
of course, when done right. Vicky Guerrero, no. John Laurinaitis, not so much either.
Johnny Ace,
but I could stomach John Cena if he had a heel authority figure
to run up against,
to go after, and Triple H would be outstanding for him because they could have a terrific match. And Triple H could employ anybody else to do his dirty work for him and just beat Cena down.
And half the crowd would love Triple H running Ripjaw against Cena as well. But
it would also force other people, because no one likes the dirty heel bad guy authority figure. Eventually, you hate them effing everybody over. So some of these people would be forced to cheer for Cena. And I could see myself being in a position that I would be rooting for Cena when I otherwise would be rooting against him.
Yeah, I could possibly see that. It's hard for me to say I could ever cheer for Cena. But after Triple H kind of goes off and says, he's getting mad, Jerry Lawler says, one thing for sure, Triple H is hot.
I picked up on that too.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
No, not at all. But
not my cup of tea.
It stood out on its own, and I thought that was funny.
Out of context, pretty good stuff. For me, the nose, I can't get past the nose. If you got a nose job, I could maybe agree with Jerry.
I'm used to it by now.
All right.
He's had that beak for his entire life, but
Yeah.
I think I've been watching him on TV since '96.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
I'm used to it.
We head back, Paul Heyman with Curtis Axel and Vince McMahon backstage. McMahon says that Triple H won't have a match next week, and that Axel will be wrestling once again tonight against John Cena in a no disqualification match.
What didn't make sense is that he said, well, just like or whatever he said, I'm paraphrasing, that the result will be different than last week because I'm making this match no DQ. Well, last week, Axel won by a countout. Mm-hmm. Making a match no DQ, to me, at the time, was saying, well, you're going too far. Just make it a no countout match.
Yeah.
So he makes it a no DQ match, and then you come to find out later on that there was a reason it wasn't a no countout, but to me that doesn't make sense. I don't think they've ever had a no DQ match where they've had a count. Ever.
Yeah.
Ever. I think that it was just no DQ was always a blanket no count out as well.
Yeah, it's really weird.
Even though there have been times where they say this match is no disqualification, no count out, but to me it didn't make sense.
You know what I find really unique about the Curtis Axel character is that he's a heel. Mm-hmm. Has he done anything heelish? All he's done is come out and wrestle.
That's true.
And the guys leave and they have little heart attacks or whatever and get counted out. He doesn't do anything. He's just trying to wrestle.
Yeah, and he's really leaving all the dirty stuff to Heyman. Now, granted, he in this match, as that we'll get to, because it was no DQ, he was legally using a foreign object. Yeah. But even his conversation with McMahon, McMahon was very praiseworthy of him.
Yeah.
Saying, "Hey kid, you got a bright future."
Yeah. It's really weird how they're handling him right now.
I wonder if there's something cerebral about that. No pun intended. Certainly with Triple H, but you're right that he doesn't come out there and run his mouth. He's not taking advantage of these guys when they're wounded. Mm-hmm. He's satisfied with the count-out victories. Yeah. He's not going out there and maiming them. We'll see what happens. I think Curtis Axel does have a bright future, and I think he'll be able to eventually parlay that into a successful career as a fan favorite.
I hope so. He hasn't impressed me like when the Shield first came in, or some other wrestler when they first have debuted. He's solid. He's solid in the ring, but nothing pops out at me so far. It's just I'm waiting for a special moment, I guess.
I think it'll come.
Yeah. Our next match was Fandango versus Khali. The announcers were just out of it during this match. They were cracking up at each other's jokes and stuff. But Khali dominated the match, and Fandango leaves the ring with my notes autocorrected. Summer Raw I had. Summer Rae ended, and he's counted out. The Miz came out to meet Fandango at the top of the ramp, but was attacked from behind by Wade Barrett, who is still the champion. Looks like they're still leaning towards that triple threat match for the IC belt between those three. And then we had a Miz versus Barrett match right after. And again, Fandango comes out and dances during the match. Miz used this distraction to put on the figure four and win the match against Wade Barrett. I have no interest in this angle at all.
The Fandango match was strange because it was the first of two matches that night where there was really no end. They didn't ring the bell and say your winner by countout, Great Khali. It was just like, okay, yeah. I guess we're moving on to our next match. Uh-huh. Because Miz comes out and then Barrett comes out and they're like, oh, well, these two are scheduled for a match next. When the other match wasn't over, yeah. And they never had an end to it. Fandango just walked to the back with Summer Rae, and there was no acknowledgement, at least on TV, of Khali being a winner.
They've been doing that a lot lately, and I don't know if it's negligence
or if it's, again, maybe it's on the app. I don't know.
Possibly.
But to me, I think you're doing a disservice to your viewers, and USA can't be happy with that.
No.
That you're getting incomplete matches, and
well, the advertisers can't be happy that they're like, hey, don't watch these commercials that we've paid many, many dollars for go watch our app, and then come back when all that crap's over. So I wonder how that works, but no interest in the feud. I'm leaning towards Fandango winning the belt just to give him something to do. I don't know.
That's what I would think, because Miz and Barrett, they've had it before, and Barrett, I think, with the exception of some of his terrible losses, that apparently all you need to do is just have a distraction, a cheesy distraction to beat Wade Barrett. He's somebody they could elevate into world title picture status if they use him properly. I think he's better than the IC title, and I hate to say that because I love the IC title.
Yeah, he's kind of stuck in between. Like, he's better than the IC title, but he's definitely not good enough to be in the main event.
But think about it. He's had WWE title matches before.
He has
at pay-per-views.
Yeah, I just feel like he's missed his moment. He was scheduled to win the Money in the Bank
before his injury,
and we were at that Raw when he got injured.
Yep, I remember it well.
Yeah, he from everything I had read is that he was going to win one of the Money in the Banks that year. So he might have just missed the boat. It's unfortunate. He's got talent. I like him on the mic. He just lacks direction. He's got nothing to do right now. I mean, even with the belt, it's just like, who cares?
Is he a guy we're going to see starring in TNA in 2 years?
Maybe. Or he works better when he's like amongst other people. I don't think he's a great like singles guy, but when he was in like a faction,
the Nexus, the Core,
the Core was okay, but he needs something that's missing. Again, we're going back to the missing ingredient. Yeah. But he's definitely missing a couple, even one or two.
Speaking of Core, was it Barrett, Ezekiel Jackson, Justin Gabriel, and Heath Slater?
Yeah.
Okay. I forgot that it was Heath Slater.
Yep. Because,
Which reminds me of, I was thinking about this today with Kurt Axel being a Paul Heyman guy and Punk being a Paul Heyman guy. They were both in the new Nexus. So,
which dissolved without a mention as well.
Once Punk had his pipe bomb, they kind of dropped it.
If you go back and watch the Chicago Money in the Bank when CM Punk won the title, he came out with the N, the new Nexus thing. That was the final time he had his old theme music came out, and then when he returned, it was all over. There was no mention of it. So just another one of those storylines that just ended. So maybe the new Nexus is still around, but it's underground. It's like a secret society.
It's possible. I haven't seen Otunga for a while.
Yeah. I wonder what he's doing. Well, anyways, next up we had our Jericho and CM Punk contract signing, missing one important factor, which was
CM Punk.
Paul Heyman was out there representing him, and it was a really bizarre segment to me. Like it was like a time waster almost. Jericho was, talking about different locations where they could have the match. Then they just settled back on Chicago because guess what? You're not moving the pay-per-view to a different arena. And then Jericho's spending all this time like where you could file the contract, like shove it up Heyman's butt or something. Just really bizarre. I didn't understand it. What was the point with it?
On top of that, with Heyman stressing how difficult it will be for Jericho to wrestle in front of a partial crowd favoring Jericho's opponent, to me that's just not believable for a man who's been wrestling for most of his life.
Yeah.
And he's won numerous championships and done incredible things both in WWE and in Japan and everywhere else. A guy like that's not going to be intimidated. So to play that up like that's even a concern is a bit foolish to me.
Well, why bring up the angle if you're not going to do anything with it? Like you're not going to move the match, so I don't know.
Maybe what they'll do is Jericho will add the stipulation that the match will happen in an empty arena before the show begins.
Probably not. At halftime of the Super Bowl in an empty arena.
But look at what people have been saying. They've been saying that this match won't even take place. That it will be Curtis Axel, not CM Punk. fighting Chris Jericho.
I could see Paul Heyman, having that contract written up where, Jericho didn't look at it and it said, like, he has to face, Curtis Axel and Brock Lesnar together,
It's possible, but I just don't see them doing a bait and switch at a pay-per-view like that.
No, that'd be pretty...
To advertise Punk to wrestle and not have him wrestle, that'd be weird.
Yeah.
Unless, I guess the only way that they would be able to do that and make up for it is if Punk played a pivotal role in the match somehow at the end.
If he interfered or...
If he interfered and had some kind of segment or something at the pay-per-view.
I really hope the match goes off because I love seeing those two wrestle. They're two of the best. And, I've missed CM Punk, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
He's one of the top two guys easily in the WWE, so I hope he comes back.
How long do you think it will take for the crowd to boo him once he gets back? Because you know that if he remains a heel, he's going to do something to get the heat back. Inevitably, they'll go crazy for him as soon as he comes back. But I'm not even talking about Chicago. I mean, like maybe the next night on Raw.
I don't think he'll be booed because I think Payback goes off the air with CM Punk giving Paul Heyman a GTS.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know why.
Do you
Maybe he didn't want to be in the match.
Do you think that will be the last match? Punk Jericho?
No, you're right. I just think.
Or will CM Punk be driving the ambulance? I'm just kidding.
Wow, that'd be interesting. I don't know. I just think it might go on last if like CM Punk hasn't come back yet and he hasn't been shown and they wait for that moment for him to come out, and I could see him getting really pissed that he has to be in this match because he never, his representation put him in this match. He didn't want to be back, and him and Heyman end up in a fight, and that's how he turns, and it leads to that Lesnar CM Punk match at SummerSlam.
Yeah, that would be a way to get there. Let's see if they take that route.
I highly doubt it because it sounds too awesome, but
and logical.
Yeah. Our next match was AJ Lee and the Bella Twins versus the Funkadactyls and Caitlyn. I'm glad that Caitlyn was back to her normal getup. She looked good again.
I meant to look and see if last week's date had some significance, if it was the Fabulous Moolah's birthday or something.
Oh, maybe.
I wanted to check that. There might have been some kind of, if it was the anniversary of her death. Because there had to be a reason why she wore that.
It looked, yeah, it was 60s style, that's for sure. Pretty good wrestling, actually, from the gals last night. Is it Cameron or Naomi? I always forget which one is a good one. Naomi's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
She was flying around, she looked really good.
Yeah.
AJ,
sorry, that was creepy by me.
The Bellas go for a twin, and AJ refuses the tag, just as the Bellas did. It was last week or 2 weeks ago, and ends up costing the Bellas the win as Caitlyn spears one of the twins to get the pin. So that was pretty cool.
And you texted me that message, photo of AJ yesterday.
Yeah, I did.
Saying you liked. Yeah, I liked that she abandoned the Bellas because I just don't like the Bellas. Like
I like them.
I think they do their job because
Yeah.
I don't like them, so they're doing their job. But yeah, I think that they are at, and I'm not saying this is a high level yet, but they're at a better level than they've ever been post Lita Trish when it comes to the women's division. They need to keep building off of that.
They have a solid core right now. People love AJ. People, Caitlyn is okay. She's a champion. She's legit. She can really wrestle. But Cameron and Naomi don't get enough credit. And the Bellas have looked better than they ever have. They're definitely in better shape than they ever have been. And they
agreed.
Yeah, in the ring they've looked a lot better than they had prior. Our next match was another great one by Daniel Bryan, taking on Ryback, as we alluded to earlier. Ryback arrives in his ambulance as always now, and I really think they're going to add that because the siren isn't from the ambulance. It's it's pumped in on the tightener.
You got your wish.
Yeah.
And now, I say it with hesitance because I'll have to wait and see until they're done with the whole ambulance thing if it stays.
Yeah.
But I thought of you right away last night.
I was so happy. So he arrives in his ambulance. Bryan controlled the action early, and then he had an Indian deathlock, which looked awesome.
Yes.
That was really cool. And then a huge headbutt. It was like Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 19. That's how far the jump looked.
I think it was in the same spot, too.
It was very similar. But Daniel Bryan hit the flying headbutt from like way across the ring. Ryback got back into control of the match when he hit him with a power bomb, and but Bryan was able to reverse like the pin into a no lock, and he had that thing like wrenched in. He was really pouring it on. The crowd was really excited about it, and then Bryan. Well, he gets to the ropes, and Bryan goes for a running headbutt, but misses. That's when Ryback took control, and he took out a table and power bombs Bryan through it. So Daniel Bryan actually won the match for disqualification. But Cena comes running in to save Daniel Bryan, and I was actually happy. I'm like, yeah, fuck Ryback, because like Daniel Bryan is so like it's such a unique experience for me to cheer for a face like that.
It was just good to see that Bryan didn't receive the Kofi treatment from SmackDown. So in that sense, it was nice to see Cena come out and just put an end to it. If I can go back to the first Bryan match of the night, he had a 1 minute span where he took out each member of the Shield and got a near fall, and I thought, holy cow. He did it so effortlessly, and it was so fluid. He looked like that at times against Ryback too, where every little combination of moves that he linked up was perfect. There was one point where, and I think he saved this, I want to say that Ryback botched a Luthez press, and then Bryan turned it into a leg lock, and I honestly think he, just by quick thinking, turned it into a leg lock. I don't think it was supposed to be a botched Luthez press. I could be wrong. They maybe planned it out that way. But it looked so good because the botch looked so bad that it may not have been a botch. But if it was, it looked intentional. And it was just so well done. And the way he was able to shift into every lock was just... He's
so quick.
Yeah.
And he can pull off moves where other people would be just recovering from the previous move. It's really unique what he can do. And I talked to you about this before we went on the air, how it's weird where, like, when he's facing the Shield, like, I've been cheering for the Shield ever since they debuted, but when Daniel Bryan is in the ring, I'm like, yeah, get him, you know. I'm like a little kid cheering for Hulk Hogan again, because he's got that, I mean, you want to see him succeed because you like him so much, and you know that he doesn't have the same physical abilities as some other guys, so you're actively cheering for this guy to win. And it's so unique because Cena tries to play that same role, but he's bigger and stronger than everyone, so it's really tough for him to do that. And he's done it for years and years and years, so you're kind of bored of it. But Daniel Bryan, you can just get fully behind, and I really think this is the beginning of his ascent to one of the top three guys. I mean, he might already be there, but I think we're gonna see him win a WWE championship within the next year.
Who is your top three? It's got to be Cena, Punk, and...
I mean, you could put Lesnar up there, The Rock, of course.
I'm talking full-timers.
Full-timers?
I mean, would you put Ziggler ahead of Bryan?
It depends what we're ranking it on, as far as, like...
WWE's three guys. WWE says, these are our three guys.
Sheamus, probably. Orton. I mean, WWE probably sees those two as bigger stars.
I think Sheamus probably would come in at 3 ahead of Bryan based on just their decision making.
But I think it's turning, and I think Daniel Bryan is moving up that ladder.
I think so too.
Yeah, and Jericho even tweeted out, like, I've been around wrestling a long time, and I've seen a lot of guys do really well, but Daniel Bryan is at a whole nother level right now. And I thought that was really cool, giving him props like that, especially because they're so similar, in style and, what they can do with similar bodies and stuff. So I thought that was really cool. Well, at the end, it looked like Ryback and Cena were going to go at it, but Curtis Axel interrupts, and then we lead into their match, the no disqualification match.
And again, this one was a weird start. They did the intros, went to commercial, come back, and they're fighting.
And the match was okay. It was kind of cool to see a no DQ match, which we don't get a lot on free TV. But again, Ryback interferes, and Cena's counted out in a no DQ match. But he gets counted out in a no DQ match, but he doesn't get counted out in a last man standing match, which we had at last pay-per-view at Extreme Rules. So it's really, they need to get on the ball in this kind of stuff because it pisses us off
and
as a viewer.
They didn't announce a winner. They didn't say anything.
No, it
just ended.
It's really messing me up. And the 3 Stages of Hell match is coming up between those, and I'm fully believe that Ryback is going to win the tables match just because he's putting everyone through tables. And then he'll probably lose the ambulance match, but I don't know. What do you think?
I think the opposite. I think because he's putting people through tables, he'll lose that. I think that he will win the lumberjack match, and it will look like a foregone conclusion that, he's not going to lose the table match. He's going to roll, and of course, anything that's a best of whatever goes to the limit. So he will lose the table match, and then they'll have. Either one of them could go either. I think right now WWE probably could go either way. I don't think they know who will win at Payback. But I think it'll go Ryback in the lumberjack match, Cena in the table match. And I'm leaning towards Ryback winning the title.
Really?
Yeah, I think he will.
A 1.5 month reign for Cena?
Well, I mean, he'll get it back soon.
I hope not, because he can ever closer to that Ric Flair 16 championship. So
yeah.
Well, anyways, so that was Raw. It was I thought it was pretty solid, mostly for Daniel Bryan.
This is what we want as wrestling fans. We had quality wrestling.
Yes.
So I can't knock some of the little missteps here and there because the matches were good.
Yeah.
I mean, even the Cody Rhodes match was good. Even though you knew Sheamus was going to win with a brogue kick at some point, it was a good match, and I have no complaints about
totally
the
agree.
actual
Even the Divas match was solid.
Exactly. And that's really what I want. I like the talking more than I think most wrestling fans. It was like, we watched and it was like 45 minutes of talking for the first hour. I kind of like that, depending on if they do it right. But the best thing always will be the wrestling. That's why I'm a fan.
That's what it's built around.
And they had quality wrestling last night.
Very good. So we're going to get into our top 10 list now. And like we said earlier, it's our top 10 tag teams of all time. We didn't limit it to WWE this time, which we had in previous lists. But do you want to list off the people we considered who didn't quite make the list?
Yes, and in addition to that, I will preface everything by saying it's understandable, especially with this being a list where we considered tag teams outside of WWE. Depending on who does this list, it's going to be completely different.
Yeah.
There are so many great tag teams. There are also tag teams where you might, have a favorite from your childhood or a favorite from your teen years or a favorite from today that maybe based on their accolades don't deserve to be on this list.
Yeah.
So, and I'll say right now, I mean, I'm 31 and you're, 27, 28? 28, just giving you credit for an extra year off.
Well, I do look at it.
Yeah, of course you do. If somebody who's much older than us made this list, it'd be completely different. Because they'd be like, you forgot so-and-so and so-and-so. Well, yeah, we did, but these are our 10 favorite. Matt and I came with a list of 10 each, and we whittled it down to a top 10 that represents both of us, and actually our top 5s mirrored each other.
And we to be fair, we each had lists of about 25 to 30.
So here are some of the tag teams, just again off the top, that I thought of that were pretty good tag teams. Even some that I wrote down, I certainly did not consider them being in the top 10, but just these are good tag teams. We want to tip the cap. One that didn't make it, Degeneration X. Mm-hmm. Of course, we mean Shawn Michaels and Triple H. Another one, the Dudley Boys. These guys would be in the top 10. They were just on the outside for both of us.
They're like our 10B.
Yeah,
or 10A.
They were both on the top of the non-10 list for both of us. One that I want to point out, the Powers of Pain, the Warlord and the Barbarian. I loved those guys. The Twin Towers, Akeem and Big Boss Man. Charlie Haas and Shelton Benjamin, the world's greatest tag team. Rock and Mankind, the Rock and Sock Connection. The two-man power trip, Triple H and Stone Cold Steve Austin. Of course, they had the tag titles and the IC title and the WWE title at the same time.
Which they don't do a lot of.
Not too much.
Yeah.
And then Paul London and Brian Kendrick. They had a decent title run, and they were fun to watch. And then, of course, I have to say Deuce and Domino. I love Cliff Compton, Domino. Bushwhackers. They were fan favorites, of course.
Yeah.
Yokozuna and Owen Hart. The Rockers. Actually, you know what? The Rockers did make the list, so I misspoke there. But one of my personal favorites that did not make the list was the Colossal Connection. And, of course, that was Haku and Andre the Giant.
A lot of power there.
Mm-hmm. Another one that didn't make the list, Brothers of Destruction, The Undertaker and Kane. The Hollies, Hardcore Holly and Crash Holly. Midian and Viscera, Ken Shamrock and the Big Boss Man. Team Hell No is a recent tag team that I think it's been Kane's best tag team.
Yeah. And they honestly, if this list was 5 years from now, looking back on this run, we might have put them in it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they're kind of they fell out just because it is so new. We tend to glorify the past a lot more than the present.
And I think with this list we should do that, because on the same token, sometimes the recent stuff, whatever's front of mind, gets exaggerated. People are like, that's the best ever, but you know. We'll see. Are there any others that you like that didn't make the list?
Absolutely. I got quite a few really good ones, actually. The Brain Busters with Arn Anderson and
Very good
Blanchard, from the Four Horsemen. The Freebirds with Michael Hayes, Terry Gordy, and Buddy Roberts. And they actually, the Freebird rule is named after them because there were three members. Mm-hmm. And there was a lot of talk with the Shield maybe doing that, where you can pick two from the three men to defend it at any time. That was a Freebird rule.
And of course, another tag team took advantage of that, the Spirit Squad.
There you go.
And they had 5 members, and any 2 could defend it. And of course, Dolph Ziggler was a member of the Spirit Squad.
Yes, he was. The British Bulldogs with Davey Boy Smith and Dynamite Kid. The Foreign Legion was it Vladimir Volkov?
Nikolai
Volkov.
Right.
And the Iron Sheik.
And it was Volkov. Nikolai Volkov.
Yes. And I just started watching my WrestleMania DVDs that my girlfriend bought me for graduation. WrestleMania 1, they actually won the tag team titles off of I forget who they won against. But anyways, the Acolytes with Bradshaw and Ron Simmons. And the Hollywood Blondes with Stone Cold Steve Austin and Brian the Texas Tornado Pillman.
What about the Dingo Warrior and Sting?
Doink and Dink.
Oh yeah, Doink and Dink.
Doink and Dink, yeah.
I wouldn't put them in.
No, me neither. Well, anyways, so that those were all the guys who just missed a list, or really missed a list. But our number 10, we accidentally listed them already. The Rockers with Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty. During the 80s, they were one of the top teams. They really brought a lot of flair to the tag team division, because back in the day it was a lot of power guys, and these guys were jumping off the ropes and doing really crazy stuff they hadn't seen. They were crazy athletic. Obviously, a young Shawn Michaels could do a lot of stuff. So definitely worth top 10. Rockers, number 10.
I liked them compared to some of the other people we named because they were together a tag team. I mean, that sounds like a Dan Fouts, John Madden-esque statement, but This was, of course, before Shawn Michaels blew up as an individual singles wrestler.
Come out wearing the same gear.
What's the whole is greater than the sum of the parts?
Yeah.
That's kind of how I looked at it with these guys. Is the Rockers? The two guys were the Rockers.
Yeah.
They weren't just two guys put together to be a tag team.
And it was a shocking moment when they broke up. When HBK tossed him through the barbershop window, and that was a really iconic moment from WWF.
I watched that the first time it aired.
Really?
Yeah, it was on Superstars on Saturday morning.
Yeah,
and I was stunned as well.
Yeah,
although I kind of saw it coming because Shawn was kind of being a dick leading up to that,
as he's known to do.
Yeah.
I also love that they have the same hair.
Yeah, the mullets.
The 80s mullets, yeah. Number 9.
Number 9, this was kind of the opposite of what I just talked about. These were two guys put together, but they dominated, and they're arguably two of the most popular wrestlers of all time. At one time they were two of my favorites. One of them still is, one of them not so much. But the Mega Powers, Hulk Hogan and Macho Man Randy Savage.
And this happened right after WrestleMania 4. Randy Savage had won the tournament for the vacated belt, and he was the WWF champion, and him and Hogan combined to become the tag team champions, and they had a year-long run, essentially year-long run, and they broke up, and then they had their match at WrestleMania 5 that Hulk Hogan won to win back the WWF championship.
Speaking of iconic moments, I'll never forget Saturday night's main event. I was actually staying at a friend's house a block away from where we are right now when that originally aired.
Wow. When
they broke up, when Macho Man threw Elizabeth on the ground backstage and accused her of cheating on him with Hulk Hogan, and they had a tag match against the Twin Towers, Bossman and Akeem, and I believe Hulk Hogan was handcuffed to the ropes during that match, and Macho Man walked away from him.
Wow. And Hogan still won the match. It's incredible. No, no, I'm just kidding. Our number 8 team, this one has a this is one of the teams that I really loved, and I told Jimmy I couldn't have it not on the list. There you go. The Outsiders, the original NWO duo of Scott Hall and Kevin Nash. New World Order. When they came in wearing, you had Scott Hall wearing the jean jacket and jean pants, and Kevin Nash coming in with his big mane of hair and just running ripshot over WCW and really setting the tone.
Did you say ripshot?
Yeah.
Isn't it roughshod?
Roughshod?
We'll go with ripshot. I just want to say ripshot. That'll be our thing. We'll say ripshot.
How about ripshot and roughshot?
Michael Cole says roughshod every 5 minutes on Raw. But we'll go with ripshot. I've never heard of it, but I like it. It's kind of like rickshaw.
Yeah. Well, either they do both of those because they're that dominant. And, of course they formed the NWO at Bash at the Beach in 96 when Hogan joined them, but they definitely have a place in wrestling history, one of the biggest angles of all time, and it started right there with the Outsiders.
I was not a massive Outsiders fan.
Oh, I hated them.
But with what they've been able to do, or what they were able to do in WCW, by taking away the spotlight from WWE for a little bit,
for almost 3 years,
they deserve to be on this list.
Absolutely. Number 7.
Number 7 is the. Do we have the Hardys?
Yep.
The Hardys. That was the other tag team. I mentioned the Natural Disasters were an also ran. They're also one of my favorites. Earthquake and Typhoon. Loved those guys. So I don't want to forget them. I want to pay homage to them. But number 7, the Hardy Boys, or the Hardys later, Matt and Jeff. They...
With Lita sometimes.
With Lita, yeah. Team Extreme. Mm-hmm. Also, they were the New Brood with Gangrel.
That's right.
However, they were known for their success as a tag team, their matches with Edge and Christian, and the Dudleys, and even the APA. And, I mean, Jeff went on to have some monster success as a singles wrestler. He's still doing it in TNA. Matt's in Ring of Honor, but he was always kind of like, he was the Marty Jannetty Jeff Hardy's Shawn Michaels.
Yeah.
And I loved watching these guys. I mean, there wasn't anything they wouldn't do. One of my friends, Barney Irwin, formerly the Goon in WWE, said that a lot of the wrestlers who worked with the Hardys, this was during the Attitude Era. This was like 2001 when I was talking to him. He said that a lot of his friends that he knew who currently were wrestling in the Attitude Era, like Bradshaw and Farouk, liked the Hardys because they were old school in that there wasn't really anything that they wouldn't do. They'd take big bumps, and their opponents appreciated that because they weren't I guess handcuffed in the ring. They could go work and do whatever. And I think it showed in their matches. They were tremendous. And I think about the Attitude Era, and that was a big part of what I enjoyed so much. That I remember they brought that tag team division back it was about 99 when all of those people rose.
Yeah.
Prior to that, the tag division had kind of been stale for a while, and they had that tag team turmoil match to determine the number one contender for the titles at SummerSlam in 99 when I was there in Minneapolis. And that was kind of the start of it, around that time where you started to see these
WrestleMania 16 and then WrestleMania 17 was when they had those triangle ladder matches, where that both won match of the year, and those were 2000 and 2001. 16 was WrestleMania 2000.
Okay, yeah, those were great matches.
Yeah, so that was really the peak of tag team wrestling in the WWE. Our number 6 team is the Steiner brothers, Rick and Scott. Of course, just two bulldogs, just built guys, really good mat wrestlers. Rick a little more than Scott, but Scott had the power. Just a really solid team, and I loved when they would come in with the amateur helmets on. And
I think just Rick wore that, didn't he?
Was it just Rick?
I think just Rick always wore that.
Okay,
because he always wore it, the dog-faced gremlin.
Oh yeah,
I loved this tag team. This was pre-Big Papa Pump Scott Steiner. Rick Steiner, again, Barney Irwin told me that Rick Steiner was one of the legitimate tough guys in wrestling.
And I totally believe
that he would kick the holy hell out of most people. He, along with Scott, now Scott of course went on to enjoy some individual success, especially in WCW.
Yeah,
changed his look, went from the brown-haired mullet, no facial hair, to the short blonde hair, the dyed goatee. So he had like the Pepe Le Pew stripe down the middle.
The Pepe Le Pew stripe.
Or the reverse Pepe Le Pew, I guess, since it was a dark strip. These guys were great, though. Former WWF Tag Team Champions, or World Tag Team Champions, I guess, at the time. And you had to give them their due on this list because of their ability and their power and their success.
Absolutely. Number 5, I'll let you read.
Number 5 is Demolition, Axe and Smash. Or I'm sorry, I misread. I'm not dyslexic. We'll pretend. No, I'm not even going to pretend. It's the New Age Outlaws. I gave you a little spoiler with the Rockers early, and now I give you another one. But no, the New Age Outlaws, Billy Gunn, Road Dogg, Jesse James. What are they? 7-time tag team champions?
Are they 7?
Is it 5 or 7?
I thought it was 5.
It's probably 5.
Yeah.
I mean, shit, I didn't even know what number they were on this list, so I don't know how many reigns they had. But they were great, and here's what I liked about them. Billy Gunn, of course, anybody who listens to this knows, I'm a fan of Billy Gunn.
Yeah, you have a husband's bulge for him.
It's the first time I've ever heard husband and bulge put together like that.
Oh, yeah, you can use it.
Well done.
It's yours now.
But on top of that, not on top of the husband bulge, but on top of liking Billy Gunn, the Road Dogg, he's so different from Billy Gunn. Although they both originally started with country gimmicks separate from each other. Huh. Billy Gunn was in the Smoking Guns, where they were cowboys, and then Road Dogg was Jesse James. He was like the second Double J. He was the roadie. He was the roadie for Jeff Jarrett, and that's how he started. And then he became the Road Dogg.
Oh, cool.
So I kind of think it's funny that they both had country gimmicks and then dropped them and became a tag team. great part of DX, and of course these guys interchanged with X-Pac and Triple H, and even China at times. But the Outlaws are the tag team of DX.
Oh, for sure.
And
not only were they good in the ring, but they were funny. You know, they would energize the crowd. You know, coming out, tag team champions of the world. You know,
and they still
great.
They were on Raw's tour 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, they were on a house show tour competing. They're both agents for WWE now. After they were reunited in TNA for a while as BG James and Kip Sop. I think he went by his real name, or Kip James and BG James. I like that they had individual success after. Both are former intercontinental champions. Back when the IC title got passed, I think the Godfather had it, and I mean everybody had it back then. Val Venus. But these guys were staples of the Attitude Era. One of my favorite tag teams.
Yeah, for sure. Number 4, you already said it. Demolition, Axe and Smash.
Axe and Smash, and the reason I said them first is I had Demolition at 5 and the Outlaws at 4. Matt had the opposite, and I went with Matt's decision because I think that was a good bet. I just look at... And actually, I initially had Demolition at 4 and then changed it. But with Demolition, Axe and Smash, we're not counting the Crush years when they were the 3-man tag. Although, rest in peace, Crush.
Yeah.
But Axe and Smash, original Demolition, they had the cool look, and now you look back on it, it looks just like a weird S&M kind of thing.
It's a little weird. And then sometimes they would come down with like helmets on, but they had that really cool like 80s like you know, they come down. You knew that they were here to kick some ass. And in the 80s, not everyone had music. People forget that. Like even when I was watching WrestleMania 1 the other day, yesterday I think, even when they would announce like really big guys, they'd already be in the ring, and there'd be Howard Finkel like, in this corner we got you know, freaking whatever, you know.
I remember it well. Guys would start in the ring, and then other times there would be just a generic music given to people if they made an entrance, and that was it. They and this was pre-video, no one had video, and only a few guys had music. And
the Junkyard Dog had music on WrestleMania 1.
JDY or JYD,
and then
maybe I am dyslexic.
I don't know what's going on with you. And Hogan did, of course, but like that was about it. The tag team,
I remember
tag team did.
Demolition's music leading up to SummerSlam. I got hyped or pumped up every time I heard it, but there was I think it was an episode of Primetime Wrestling leading up to SummerSlam 1988. I want to say they had a feud with the Powers of Pain. Demolition, and I could be totally off on this, but I think it was a feud with the Powers of Pain. Demolition at the time had one of my favorite managers of all time, Mr. Fuji.
Mr. Fuji.
Love Mr. Fuji. He turned on them and became the manager of the Powers of Pain. And I think that was the feud leading up to... No. He did turn on them, but that wasn't the time. They were having a feud with the Brainbusters in '88 leading into SummerSlam. And it was the same time when Hogan was feuding with Zeus. But that was a great tag team.
I was 3, so...
A great tag team who I hope they put in the next WWE wrestling game. Of course, you have the ability to create them, but I'm not going to go through all that crap to create them.
Our number 3 team, the Hart Foundation with Bret Hart and Jim Neidhart. They were a huge team in the 80s. Of course, Bret Hart went on to great single success in the early to mid 90s. But people tend to forget, like, Bret Hart and Jim Neidhart were together for years and years and years, and they were definitely one of the top tag teams during the 80s. They were going to actually pass the baton to the Rockers in the late 80s because, you know, it was their time, and the Rockers were really getting hot, but they actually had a match that was so bad that they didn't air it. So even though the Rockers ended up winning the match, the Hart Foundation kept the belts. The one of the ropes had actually broke during the match. Like they had fallen down, so they couldn't do any of their moves. Like it was just like it was really bizarre. But the Hart Foundation, obviously,
I think I remember hearing that too.
Yeah, I think it was on. It might have been on the Greatest Rivalries DVD.
Okay.
If you had seen that.
I have not seen that.
You haven't?
No.
I have that on Blu-ray. I should borrow that to you.
I would like that.
Yeah. I also have the Stone Cold documentary.
I'll have to check. Netflix has a couple of those. I know they have the Stone Cold one.
They have a lot of them.
They might have the tag
really
one
good
too.
But yeah, they just dominated for years and years. Neidhart was the muscle. Hart was the technician. It was a perfect blend of a little thunder and lightning,
I like two kinds of tag teams. I like the tag now. Like we'll look at Paul London and Brian Kendrick, both high flyers. I'm okay, whatever, but I'm more partial to two wrestlers that complement each other by being different, and that's what Neidhart and Hart were like. The other thing I like are two powerful guys as well. The Brothers of Destruction, of course, are one. The Powers of Pain are another. The Acolytes are another, and the Colossal Connection. Those 4 tag teams right there, powerful guys. I like that, but to me, the perfect is the ones who complement the other by being different, and that's exactly what the Hart Foundation was. Plus, they wore pink. They wore pink, and they were badasses.
And they would kick ass. If you can wear pink and pull it off and still win.
Yeah, no one questioned that.
Yeah. Kind of like what Ziggler's doing now, a little bit. Our number 2 team?
Edge and Christian. Or Christian and Edge, as they were introduced a couple times.
And you could definitely make a case for them being number 1. I think they had the most reigns, I believe.
If you went on title reigns, certainly. If you went on, I guess, popularity with wrestling at its peak of popularity, it'd be Edge and Christian.
I love their 5-second poses. They were funny, but they would still kick ass in the ring. They won both of those matches, the Triangle Ladder matches, at 16 and 17. So to come out on top of those 3 teams twice in a row at Manias, basically stealing the show 2 years in a row as a tag team is pretty impressive.
That is impressive, and I wouldn't have remembered that they won both of those.
Yeah.
I just remember them being great matches. Edge went on, of course, to have great singles success. Yeah. He won tag team championships with Rey Mysterio,
like a 9-time
Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
9-time champion. I want to say maybe Jericho. I could be making that up. I know Christian and Jericho held the titles as well. Christian, a 2-time world heavyweight champion after Edge retired. They'll always be remembered as the tag team, though. Edge and Christian and Edge. You can't think of one without thinking of the other. And they were a blast. They were of course, in the storyline, they were brothers, and then they kind of got away from that. They,
as they tend to do.
Yeah, but of course, not real life brothers.
Yeah. Which leaves only our number 1 team.
And if you know anything about wrestling and you've listened to this top 10, you know just by the process of elimination who number 1 is.
Yeah. Legion of Doom, also known as the Road Warriors. You got Hawk and Animal. Boy, what else can you say? I mean, they come down with the spikes and the makeup, and Hawk was just so powerful. He would do the lateral bench press and drop people way before the Ultimate Warrior would do it. Animal was just a brute as well. There was nothing anyone could do. You knew they were going to win, but you love seeing them.
The Doomsday Device is one of my favorite moves of all time. Yeah. And I got absolutely decimated with it in a couple of video games. NWO versus WCW Revenge, No Mercy, WrestleMania 2000. But I also used it quite a bit too.
Yeah. I think The Rock actually did a Doomsday Device in one of his more recent movies. I think I saw
in a movie he did.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Like he clotheslined someone who was on top of like someone's shoulders.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see. But these guys, they had the look. I mean, you're talking wrestling in the 1980s, where everything's just about rock music and being strong and big and muscular. And these guys, you said, they had the look, the Mad Max look, the spiked shoulder pads. Just, they didn't talk a whole lot. Hawk was their mouthpiece, of course, and you had to love the music, starting with "Oh, what a rush." And I can't even do that justice. But terrific tag team, of course. Hawk is now deceased.
Yeah.
And Joe Laurinaitis, Animal, is retired, and He's the brother of John Laurinaitis and the dad of James Laurinaitis.
James Laurinaitis, linebacker
for the St. Louis Rams.
Yep.
Great tag team. They are in WWE 13 as the Road Warriors. I changed their name to Legion of Doom because they were always the Road Warriors in WCW and everywhere else other than WWF, where they were the.
Of course, they have to get their own name on there to make their own money, probably.
Well, no. See, they have the opposite.
Oh,
they don't. They should have them as Legion of Doom because it's a WWE game. But they had them as the Road Warriors.
Weird.
But they own all those licenses now, so they can do whatever the hell they want.
Well, that's our top 10. Let us know what you think. Let us know if we forgot any obvious omissions, which we have known to do. But yeah, that's our show for the day as well. Be sure to follow us on everything. Twitter.
At
Facebook,
Immortals PCast.
At Immortals PCast. At 97Bush. At Jimmy Bellamy. And we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.